What you're going to get from Jeff Sinelli is an entrepreneurial journey of the ups and downs, from starting from nothing to literally billions of dollars in sales, to building brands. And what I can do is teach you through my experience that you can take to save you time, money, and have more fun.
All right, this is Jeff Sinelli. This is the Obsessed Show. We've got Bob Sambol here from Bob's Steakhouse, Chops, and More. Bob, what's the official name of it?
I'm the founder of Bob's Steak and Chop House.
And it's an institution in Dallas.
30 years now.
30 years, it just gives me, I was in my 20s when I first discovered it, so we're dating ourselves, but, I just get goosebumps because it's such an institution that I've had so many memories there, and it's special to have you here today, especially when it's National Carrot Day, and you have, we'll talk about the carrots and more, but this is the Obsessed Show because I'm obsessed about business, life, and having fun, and I've known you for decades now, and let's just talk shop and more and dive in. We can talk about the clock over us. That's
Sure.
There's a story there. I always like to call out Ian here. That's kind of setting us up. But I started with the lemonade stand.
Okay.
How did you start?
Okay, I grew up in the Bronx, New York, and my dad had bars in Manhattan, and he worked 7 days a week. So the only way for me to see him and spend any time with him was to go to work. So I'm the youngest of three children, and I was called the little one. So my mother said, "You don't do anything with the little one. You got to do something with him." Well, I'll take him to work with me. So he takes me to his bar in Manhattan, dresses me. I got all dressed up, had a little bow tie on, white shirt. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I got there early when he opened. He showed me what you do when you open. You check the ice machine. You check the bathrooms, make sure there's not a flood. You put all the lights on. You turn the air conditioner on, and you do all this in the morning sun, because if it's broken, you got time to fix it before the first customer comes in. And that was the first day I went with him when I was 11. So I just wanted to be with my dad. He was the bigger than life kind of guy. Everybody knew him. He ran a bar, and in those days people drank during the day. So by 11:30, guys start coming in the bar and patting me on the head. My father's name was Al. They're calling me Little Al. I had a Coca-Cola with about 10 maraschino cherries in it, And I was just, wow, this is cool. I want to do this.
I am getting goosebumps like I've never had, because this is my story too.
Yeah.
We're both SOBs, son of bar owners. Okay. For real, my dad owned some nightclubs, and, he would take me to work.
Yeah.
And, we'd sometimes he'd leave me alone, and I'd have to go play with the band's instruments, and
Yeah.
I'd turn on the light switches, or I'd
Right.
stock the ice, and make friends with the bartenders, and it was such. I can remember the smells. I can remember everything about it. But I think the point, just in business, we're both lucky, maybe to have fathers that mentored us in the hospitality industry. Both you and I, we're both SOB, son of bar owners, that showed us things that. Look, my friends growing up, they were playing Atari or doing video games or doing other stuff. I was going to work with my dad.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were too.
Yeah, and I wanted to make my dad happy, so I worked hard.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to be like him. I thought it was really cool. So my dad graduated to restaurants. He started opening restaurants in New Jersey. So then I started going into the restaurant, and I credit him with teaching me how to work hard. Okay, that was
Did he teach you, or did you just learn from being around him?
I learned from being around him, and then he showed me what I'm supposed to do. And being that I was his son, I did the hardest jobs and get the least amount of pay because I was his son.
And did you feel like, I always felt like I always had to work harder than everyone else
100%.
because the eyes were on me.
Yeah.
I was the owner's son.
And I remember that. So we had a very small apartment in New York, and I remember one of the days I went to work for him and worked particularly hard that day, for as much as I could do as a young man. And I'm almost falling asleep, and I hear my mother say to him, "How'd the little one do today?" "Oh man, he works. I'm telling you, he's a good kid. He's a good kid." And I couldn't sleep. I was so excited.
You were glowing.
I was glowing. So that's how I got started. And then worked for my dad till I was 24 in New Jersey. And my mom got ill. And my dad decides that he needs to sell his restaurant to spend some time with my mom before she passes. And I was kind of a little bit crazy. I made a lot of money. I was making $1,000 a week, tending bar for my dad. And you got to remember, I started out in the kitchen, dishwasher, then cook. And as soon as I can get out of the kitchen, well, old enough to bartend, I tend to bar. Because in those days, there was no celebrity chefs. So I wasn't meeting any girls in the kitchen. So I wanted to be.
No, but at the bar you would.
Yeah, but at the bar I would. So I immediately went out to the bar. So I was making $1,000 a week. This is in 1978. Making $1,000 a week. I was drinking. I was going out every night, gambling. I mean, so I went. My dad said, "Hey, I'm going to sell the restaurant." I said, "Okay. What does that do for me?" He said, "Well, you're a smart kid. You made a lot of money. I'm sure you put a lot of it away, and it's about time you went off on your own."
Did you buy that restaurant?
No. I had about $1,000. I had a friend of mine who was in Miami. I figured, well, might as well go see him. So I went down to visit him. Proceeded to lose that $1,000 at the racetrack that week, and needed a job. And I went to work. Applied for a job at a restaurant called the Rusty Pelican on Key Biscayne in Florida,
yeah.
which looks at Miami, one of the top 10 views in the world. I got a job as a manager trainee. $800 a week, $800 a month. I was scheduled from 9 in the morning to 11 at night, 7 days a week. I asked the manager, his name was Peter Montan, when do I get a day off? He said, when you deserve one. Can you imagine telling somebody that now? You go to jail.
Well, yeah. Well, but what about the transition from working for your father and now you're working for somebody else?
So now I'm working for somebody else. And this is a big company that owned the restaurant. They had 78 restaurants across the country. Well, push come to shove, 2.5 years later, I was vice president of the company, running 14 restaurants in 11 states.
So you didn't take much time off, I guess.
I didn't take much time off. I knew this was what I wanted to do. Okay, so, but along the way, I got so fortunate. I worked with not only good restaurant people, I worked with entrepreneurs and businessmen. I later on went to work for Arnie Morton, who started Morton's. Arnie's claim to fame was 17 years. He was senior vice president of Playboy. He started Playboy clubs with Hugh Hefner. So you can imagine the brain on this guy.
Yeah.
And the original Morton's was still the greatest steakhouse that ever was. He was the first one with the tray with the food. He really was the one who started high-end wines by the glass. It was just a great place. Worked for Arnie. Then I went to work for Dick Clark, American Bandstand. He wanted to start a restaurant company in Miami. I went to work for him. So I was so fortunate to work for these type of people that were obsessed at being successful. They were obsessed about doing it right.
But I'm hearing a couple different things. Sometimes I really believe this, the universe conspires to give you something that you really want. It sounds like you wanted to be in the hospitality restaurant business.
Oh, I love it.
Because from going to making $1,000 a week with your dad to making $800 a month, big difference. Okay, big difference.
Yeah.
We're talking from New York to Florida.
Yeah.
You're not going there for the weather. But it's I'm going to back up real quick because working for your father is one of the best things that I think I attribute my success to. As my dad, because he was an entrepreneur and he had multiple businesses. He was an attorney. He had nightclubs, and he was just very entrepreneurial. But I saw that, and I'll never forget one time. Just like you were working at the bar. I was out there, and my dad said, clean the parking lot, okay? And we could park, 300 cars in the parking lot. It was a big parking lot for one of his sports bars. And I was out there for hours with a garbage bag, picking up every bottle cap, every cigarette butt. My knuckles were bloody red. It got dark. The lights went on, the sensors. My dad forgot about me out there. But I was there. I wanted to please my dad.
Right.
Because working for your dad, you want to please them because, the pay may not be great, but the biggest pay you can get is, him praising you like you heard him in front of your mom, when he said the boy worked hard, it's like, well, that day I think my dad forgot about me, and I'm just still trying to figure out, and I forget about things too. But I'm still processing that day. My fingers were bloody and I worked hard, and I was just looking for dad to say, nice job.
Well, after I got older, and I stopped going to work with him, and then one day I had to be work at 11. So obviously, when I went with him, I wasn't late. So my brother drives me to work. When I had to be there at 11, I show up at about 11. He said, "What are you doing?" "What do you mean? What time are you supposed to be here?" I said, 11. 11 doesn't mean 11. 11 means 10:30. So what did you say to me when you saw me in the hallway? You're early, Bob.
Yeah,
To
you're
this
early.
day, I am compulsively early. One quick one. I go to interview with Arnie Morton. I had 1:45 appointment at his office in downtown Chicago. I get there at 1:15. He had a very proper English secretary named Mary who said, can I help you, young man? I said, I have an appointment
You're
with
30
Mr.
minutes
Morton.
early.
She goes, you're 29 minutes early. I said, I know, I'm always early. I'll wait here. A few minutes later, an older gentleman's walking through. He goes, are you Sambol? I said, yeah. I'm Arnie Morton. Are you always early? Always. Oh, my God, we're going to get along great. Come on in. He hired me.
Yeah. One of the things I believe, and one of my rules is open 15 minutes before your posted hours and stay open 15 minutes after your posted hours, minimum. Because a lot of times, a lot of people are driving across town and they'll call the restaurant.
Right.
Are you still open? Yeah, we close at 9. Well, it's 8:45. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Can you wait? And they're like, sure, we'll be open. We're open till 9. But then you get there and the door's locked, okay? And you're like, I called. You're doing all this stuff in front of the glass. You're showing the phone that still says, like 8:57. It says you should be open. The chairs are up. And this is what I see. I see the manager or the people working inside. They're going like this. And I call that restaurant suicide.
But you know what else is worse?
What?
They let you come in and eat, and then they're sweeping around you.
Oh,
they're vacuuming.
yeah.
So my rule is, the people who eat at 2 minutes to 10 deserve the same atmosphere as the people who ate at 7:30.
Bob, this
do
is
not clean up.
This is a fundamental rule of hospitality. They're paying for that experience. If they get there, the restaurant closes at 9, and they get there, 2 minutes early, before 9. Let them finish. Don't run the vacuum or clean. I mean, it's just like, yeah, we're going to stay late, but we're here to serve. We're in a service business.
So when I'm hiring a manager, first question I ask them is, do you want to be a restaurateur or do you want to be a manager? If you want to be a restaurant manager, go work somewhere else. You want to be a restaurateur, you come work for me. And he'll say, what's the difference? And I said, the difference is you think about this 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The day before your day off, all you can do is think about what I need to tell everybody because I'm not going to be here tomorrow. And you can't wait to get there the day after your day off to see if they did okay.
Yeah.
Okay? I have a cell phone with, 500 of customers who text me reservations. I've never told any of those customers no, ever, because I'm so fortunate that they want to come. Like my father used to say, son, people want to give you money. Take it.
When that phone rings, it's money.
It's money.
Answer it. When that text goes off, it's money.
It's money.
Okay.
So if we're really busy, I say to him, Jeff, listen, come on in. We'll get you down as soon as possible. And then I make sure that you're comfortable at the bar, you have a seat, whatever it is. But I never say no because you know what? You're too busy to do it right, and sooner or later you're not going to be busy enough.
All it takes is one no, and I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you let's just play it out. If you said no to me and I wanted to celebrate with a steak or take the kids out and we were going to steak and we end up at
Albernays.
Okay, we end up at Albernays. We go from Bob's to Al's. We may have an amazing experience there, and now instead of going to your place 6 times a year, we're now going to you maybe 0, maybe 1 time.
Right.
Now we have another option, but because a lot of the consistency and continuity of the experience, I think, is why people go back to the same place for ritual, and don't say no. And apparently now I know the secret. So, what's your busiest day? I'm going to test you out on this.
Well, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
No, listen, it's being a restaurateur. It's again being obsessed with what you do for a living and wanting to be the best at it. Why did Larry Bird shoot 100 foul shots before he left practice? Why did Kobe Bryant get there at 4 a.m, 2 hours before anybody else did to shoot? It's because they were obsessed with what they were doing. They wanted to be the best at it, and that's what it takes. And like I used to tell my kids, you can work your ass off your whole life and not be rich. But if you don't work hard, you have no chance. So you got to take that gamble.
Yeah, I just enjoy working. So whether it's hard work or I'm obsessed with working. There's a lot of competition in a steakhouse business, I think. And they're all the standard's high. And then I've been into some bad steakhouse experiences. I think one of the differences, there's the hard work and then there's that caring hospitality thing. You can feel when you walk into your place, I call it heartfelt hospitality. Your name's on the shingle out there, and you walk in, and usually you see somebody that you know because your turnover's low. So they obviously enjoy working for you or the environment. So if turnover's low, the name hasn't changed, and then somewhere you pop up, it's like, I'm good. I know that you're going to deliver on your brand expectation. That's why the Sinellis, and we host Christmas parties there. We use your facility because we can count on you.
But
because you care.
Right, but we try to you have to, as a restaurateur and a steakhouse operator, know that what you strive for is to be in people's rotation. I'm the masculine traditional steakhouse. I'm not Nick and Sam's. I'm not Albanese. And I'm friends with, we're all friends. We all talk. I just want to be in your rotation. So when you want what I have, you come to me. When the Sinellis want to sit in booth 6, which you like to sit in with your 2 girls, that's where you come.
You know that, though.
Right.
I mean, whether it's technology or whatever. Yeah,
whatever. We know it. And we follow it. We don't ignore it. Okay? I just want to be in your rotation. You're not going to eat there every night, but we want to be in your rotation. And that's all we strive for. Because if I get out of your rotation, pretty much you're probably not going to come back. Well, first of all, I'm not a formally trained chef. So my culinary background is limited. If you come in or Jeff comes in and they tell you I'm back there cooking, you need to go home. Okay, it's not going to be a good night. And so we kind of stick to what we're good at, and we stick to what we know we're good at, and we don't cross the line, and we resist that temptation. And I think probably if I had some more culinary talent in the kitchen, I've got the hardest working, best people. My chef started as a dishwasher 17 years ago. I love him. 5 people from his family work for me. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're great, but we're good at what we're good at, and we stick to it. It's just like if Which Wich decided to start serving fried shrimp tomorrow. You're probably not going to be very good at it.
We've done that. We had a shrimp po' boy. But let me, all right, this is a good question for me to you. We call it in the fast casual QSR LTOs, limited time offerings. In your genre, your setting, you call it like the specials for tonight. What are you feeling on your core menu, which probably hasn't changed that much, versus the specials?
Okay, so half the steaks we sell from the first day to today is fillets. Mm-hmm. Half the steaks we sell are tenderloin fillets. And so that's what we really, we get by the best prime tenders. We cut them in-house, all that stuff. And the other stuff is important, but you got to stay in your lane. And so we've added Wagyu. We've added A5, Japanese A5, and Australian. And because it's still a steak. It's just a different cut of steak. I've resisted dry age because I don't particularly like dry age. I think the person who tries dry age for the first time is usually disappointed, so I stay away from it. I kind of stick to fastballs in the middle because I know that's what they like, and that's what I go with.
Yeah, there's I believe that. I believe, play your fastballs because I get the same thing. At one time I was a vegetarian, and that was I get a couple carrots, but I get the same thing at the same place. We're creatures of habit.
I tell you what my father told me when I told him I was opening a steakhouse like Bob's. He said, that's good, son, because, men are loyal, women aren't. A man will eat in the same restaurant every night, sit at the same table, order the same food. A woman, you come over and how's everything? Fantastic. Next night she goes, hey, let's go someplace different tomorrow. The man goes, why?
Men are loyal, women
aren't. Men aren't necessarily loyal. So I've always kind of remembered that. And we've catered, we have a masculine traditional steakhouse. That's what we are.
Yeah.
You can say anything you want about it. That's what we are. You got horse racing pictures and baseball pictures, and it is what it is.
And that's the beauty of it. Okay, this is very in and out. Okay, in and out doesn't change. Bob's on lemon doesn't change, in my opinion.
The only way it gets better is when you realize that we're charging a lot of money. And everything has to be perfect. The cleanliness, the hospitality, the greeting, the saying goodbye. And,
The sour balls.
The sour balls, right? Which we have now removed out of. We're back to the bowl. Where you
Nice.
dig in.
Yeah, a little COVID augmentation.
COVID is over. We're done. Okay, we're done with it. And it's just we know who we are, and we really, really stick to it. It's not the easiest thing to do sometimes, but I think in the long run, it's the best thing.
The long run, the long play, in and out, doesn't change. They build legacy. They build following on consistency and continuity. You're not going to go there and find bacon.
Now,
okay?
what we do, I do it more than most of the other guys, I think, is we don't want to change Bob's. We want it to evolve. So we go through every recipe. Do we need more corn in the cream corn? Do we need more cream in the cream spinach? What is there a better tomato than we're getting? I really try to look at everything and always try to be better at it. I think we've gotten better at our bar business. I think we've really embraced the high-end bourbons and tequilas and things like that, and so I think we've evolved. We never change. We evolve.
Do you have a hamburger?
No, I'll tell you why I don't.
A secret hamburger?
I'll tell you why I don't.
That's like the trend.
I tried it.
Okay.
I tried it, but why would I want to sell somebody even a $40 hamburger when the lowest steak on our menu is $60? It just doesn't make sense. It's stupid. I'm lowering my check average, and it just doesn't do me any good. It's not going to increase. It's not going to increase my business. Well, we're lucky that we have that core, and I've got guys in the kitchen been with us 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
But you have more in the core. I hear you have 250 questions you ask on your testing, and you go deep on this.
I mean, we do just try to, first of all, if you come in for a job and you're not smiling, you get about a 5-minute interview, because you can't teach someone to smile. You can teach them to carry a tray. You can teach them to make a drink. You can teach them to cook it. Do whatever you need to do. But if you're not happy and you're not smiling, get out of here. Really.
Yeah.
I don't want you working here. You should go find another business. This isn't for you. Okay? It's just you can't teach someone to be friendly. So I recently gave a speech at Oklahoma State for the career day at hospitality school. And after my speech, I was walking through the campus, and a young lady comes up to me and says, "Oh, Mr. Sambol, I was at your speech today. I live in Denton, and I want to know, can I get a job at Bob's this summer?" I said, "Yeah, you're hired." Wow. "I'm hired?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You got a beautiful smile. You had the nerve to come up to me. You shook my hand. You looked me in the eye. You're hired." I gave her my card, and she came and spent a day with me a few weeks ago, and she's going to work for me in the summer. This girl has a future in hospitality.
Well, she went after what she wanted.
Right.
I respect that.
How could you not want that?
Yeah, it's that direct target. She took a chance, and it looks like it's going to get rewarded. A lot of people are too shy to take that shot, and I just I'm trying to teach my daughters. It's like you can be shy and quiet, or you can go for what you want. It's like that's like even and thank you for your hospitality. I know I always try to get them when we go to your place to say, "Hey, please say thanks to Bob." Say hi. Just one day you might need a reservation. So it's like Story Sky. There's going to be a prom. There's going to be something. You're going to need something here. I guarantee it. But you've always been great to them. Thank you.
Well, I've got to breed new customers. Okay, so a lot of my original customers are getting older, and so whenever younger people come in, I make a point at introducing myself and giving them my card with my cell number on it. I said, "Hey, listen, here's my card. You don't need your parents to call anymore. You want to?" And I'm telling you, my customer age has dropped immensely in the last 5 years. I'm getting a lot of these young kids because they appreciate the fact that I appreciate them. And your daughter has a lot more disposable income than daughters did 10 or 15 years ago.
I don't know.
Well, maybe you're kind of cheap, but
I'm it's such a scary thought of where, them eating alone with some other. Yeah, I don't want to go there.
But you have the advantage if they come to Bob's, I can check this guy out.
Yes, please.
When she goes to the bathroom, I can sit him down and say, "Hey, listen, I know her dad, and if you're not a gentleman, you will regret this day.
And you better text me immediately, or shuttle her home, or we'll talk." But all right, so you can screen future son-in-laws for me. That's something that
100%.
someone that's the you're in the hospitality business, and then Yeah.
So a very wealthy man in Dallas divorces his fourth wife, and he assigns his assistant to try to find him a new girlfriend. And she, in her own way, gets these girls. And he asked me if she can interview them in the corner booth 6 at Bob's. And he tells her that when you think you have a good one, have Bob come over and talk to her, and he'll let me know for sure. Well, sure enough, one came in and it was the jackpot. And I called him up and I said, you need to get over here now. He ended up being married to her for 18 years.
So I imagine, in addition to serving some of the best steaks, you are part matchmaker. You've seen things that other restaurateurs haven't seen. Yeah. You know, you probably can sense if a relationship's not going to be around. You could probably sense if somebody's interested in the person at the other table. There's, you know, if you're in tune and you have a pulse on your business, you're gonna have some stories. You have an interesting story that maybe you know, that we can just talk about. That's like,
well, Alan Pepper, the
yes,
Dallas Morning News columnist who recently passed, wanted me to write a book, but he said I had to say names, and I wouldn't do that. It wasn't fair.
But you can give them pseudonyms and different.
Yeah, and I just didn't. He didn't think it had the pizzazz without the names. But
you don't have to say any names here, but maybe.
But you know what? I've been so fortunate to meet people like. I'll tell you a great Stanley Marcus story. Stanley Marcus, Neiman Marcus, the guy invented service. Okay, comes to my restaurant with his wife. He's getting on in years. We weren't very busy in the beginning. The restaurant starts to get busy. He writes me a letter and says, so happy for your success, proud of you, but unfortunately the restaurant's become too noisy for me. I went out of my mind. This can't happen. I call him up and I said, Mr. Marcus, I can't let you not be a customer. How about you come a little earlier, and I have a table that I think is the quietest table in the restaurant. That's different from the one you usually sit at. At least give it a try. And he did, and he liked it, and he got to stay a customer. But I was devastated, the fact that my restaurant, now we're too busy to do it right, too busy for Stanley Marcus to eat in the restaurant. No, that ain't going to work.
Hey, but one thing happens in restaurant acoustics, and I know you've designed restaurants, and when the density of humans go in there, they talk louder and they start yelling. It's almost uncomfortable. I was at dinner the other night, and we were in a private room, and there was even carpet underneath the table for sound, absorption. But there was probably 20 people at the table, and it was so loud. We were like screaming at each other. It's like,
well, you got to have some energy. No one wants to walk into a quiet restaurant. So I always like to build a restaurant where the bar is the first thing you walk into. And you feel the energy, you hear the noise, you hear them making drinks, and then you want to have an assortment. I like smaller rooms where you can control the sound a little better, keep the bigger parties in one room because they kind of feed off each other, and make sure that the Sinellis, Mr. and Mrs. Sinelli, aren't in that room because it will be too loud. But it's a heck of a lot better with being quiet, because when being quiet, I'm not going to last very long.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
Yeah, energy gets louder, and you just have to adjust. And it sounds like you adjust by smaller rooms, and it's just like there's different pockets and different times of the the service, your day parts that just I'm sure the bar is shaking all the martinis, everyone's talking, the energy is like it feels like it's almost New Year's. Let's pop champagne and celebrate. Yeah, and out of the 15 that have your name. Right?
Because I sold the brand, and that was one of the reasons I sold it.
Yeah, we can get into that, but yeah. So Bob, with your name on over 15 restaurants out there in the world, do you think about the weakest restaurant, the strongest? I mean, what do you think about? I mean, it's like you can only be at one at a time, physically.
Yeah.
So how does that? Just talk about that in scale, and like if we were to tell somebody what it's like, because I have hundreds of restaurants, and it keeps me really thoughtful about what's going on in the restaurant in Southern California that I haven't been to in a couple years. It's like I can only be in one at a time, and when you have hundreds or dozens, it's how do you keep perspective on that?
I think the first thing is who is ultimately in charge of that restaurant, and who is that person? Does he have the same goals and standards I have, or is he just some guy we just hired or woman we just hired that, yeah, she's kind of okay? I mean, you got to start there, and you have to hope that they're going to be smart enough to hire people below them that think and act the same way. And that's one of the reasons where I wasn't that enthused about having a lot of restaurants. It all sounds very glamorous, but it didn't fit me personally. I was very awkward about it. I love being at Bob's. You know, in DFW, we're very fortunate. The Grapevine Bob's has a manager named Monty Morris who's been there since day one. He's as good as it gets. Silvio Carbone in Plano, he's as good as it gets. All right? So I'm surrounded locally by two very good guys, but there's the Bob's at the Lamar Omni, there's Bob's at the Fort Worth Omni. You know, how are they run? I don't know the managers there. I really don't. And it's in a hotel. So that is really something that I never really got comfortable with. When I did the first Hotel Bob's in San Francisco, it's at the corner of the busiest, it's the busiest corner in the financial district, California, Montgomery, in this gorgeous hotel. And we served 3 meals a day. So it was it was weird. It was strange, but it was very well accepted, and we had a great community because of the business community, the financial district. So it's a hard one. It really is. For you, I think you probably have to just make sure they're buying the right, just like we do. Are they buying the right ingredients? Are they sticking to our standards? Are they,
Yeah, there's formatting, and I'm in basically a franchise formatting business where we try to get consistency and continuity. But I say there's 3 things. One is the operator, which I may or may not know sometimes, because we may know the franchise partner, but I don't know who the manager may be. There's the location, there's the brand. I know the brand works because I've seen it work around the world. I know the better the location, that helps the performance. But here's the one key thing. It's that individual that runs the store, that's accountable for the store, that you just referenced, that you may or may not know. Do they have the same values of Jeff Sinelli? Or do they think like I think? I've been on the phone with operators in our brands, and they say, I can't hire anyone. And yet I know 8 miles down the road, the same brand, which, or whatever it may be, they have more employees than they can share. But the person that says that they can't, they're right. And they need to look in the mirror, because it's not the real estate and it's not the brand. It's them. The individual can make or break the business. That's my perspective, and I think you'll lean on that a little bit.
COVID taught us, we all came out of COVID and we learned a lot of lessons. I think in the high-end business, I think less employees, pay them more. This way we don't need 20. Maybe we can get away with 15 and pay them more. You go in the kitchen, we have 4 guys on the line. Hey, guys, if I pay 3 of you more, can we get rid of the guy who's really no good anyway? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
It taught us a lot. It taught us. I learned from COVID what managers I really wanted to keep or were worth anything. The guys who cared about, made the best out of us carrying to-go bags out to cars. I got to be honest with you. When I was delivering to-go bags out to cars, it was a tough time in my life. That this is what my career had come to. When are we going to be open again? I don't know, and then we open and boom.
Yeah.
Man, my eyes lit up. This is it. Is going to, we're so fortunate to be in Texas, to be in Dallas. We had great leadership. It's not a political statement. It's just the truth. And it's just, here we are. And we've had years since COVID of incredible prosperity.
Yeah.
And we're better for it.
Not that this is I want to be careful how I say this, but I'm very thankful for COVID. It taught me a lot of lessons about business, about people, about my own self and what I want to do, where I want to go, and about friends, about just it's outside of the disease and everything. It's something that you were around during 9/11 when that happened. Business dropped. I was with Genghis Grill at the time, and sales dropped for us, like 60%. It's like when you go through those major cycles on Earth, or, they teach you things. And, you putting out bags to people's cars, it's very humbling. And when the COVID or whatever cloud or whatever lull in business we may have, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to get there.
There's a couple of things I do when I get a new manager, and I make sure he understands that everything's his responsibility, everything. So you walk him around and you make sure he notices the fact that you stooped down outside to pick up a cigarette butt, that he knows that that's what you're supposed to do.
So he's watching you pick up a cigarette butt.
You don't go in back and ask the dishwasher to come out there with a broom. You just go ahead and pick it up.
Yeah.
Okay? Ray Kroc, when he opened the original McDonald's, had them sweep one block around the entire McDonald's because he felt when people drove that close, they felt that it was clean driving up, and he wanted them to feel that way. It's stuff like that you like I think I mentioned to you before we went on the air that, there's two parts of our business. There's the restaurant business, and then there's the business of the restaurant. And you better know both, because we know people who only knew one of them, and they didn't do very well.
I'm not above any job in any business that I own. And I'll give you an example. When I was working for my father as a manager at one of his nightclubs, the women's bathroom, there was 5 toilets in there. Yeah. There's 50 women in line that want to go to the bathroom. Some are sneaking into the men, and it's a nightclub. There's hundreds of people there, and if they're in line, they're not drinking, they're not dancing. We're not. The bathroom doesn't make you money. Well, it does if they relieve themselves and go back. Anyways, 4 of the toilets were clogged, and the waitress are like, get the bar backs, get everything. Nobody's cleaning this. And Haley, you know the story. I just walked in there, barehanded. Okay, grabbed whatever was in that toilet, threw it in a garbage can, flushed to make sure it worked. Next toilet. Like, I didn't have time to put on gloves. This is.
Yeah.
I'm not above it. I'm not above picking up the cigarette butts. I'm not above doing any job, because if you don't mind that business, the business isn't going to mind you. And I want the smiles on those ladies' faces when, I washed my hands and I went back to work. But it was like, you know what? You've got to make sure everything works. And sometimes you just have to do things that other people aren't willing to do. But if that manager is not picking up those cigarette butts and he's above that, and he's got to get someone like who's lower on the food chain in the restaurant, there's something wrong with that manager.
Well, I mean, we had an instance back a few months ago, maybe a year ago, where one of my managers in the office, which he should never have been anyway, making an out of order sign. What are you doing? One toilet's clogged. Really? Come on with me. First of all, I'm the greatest
plunger.
No toilet has ever beaten me. Okay,
I'll go head to head with you. I can fix a toilet.
So I got a big plastic bag. I got the plunger, wrap myself around it so I don't get splashed. Went down and it was a tough one. Got it going.
Yeah.
And I said, that's why you don't put it. And she just looked at me like, oh my God, that's crazy.
How do you think that would have played out if you weren't there? They would have called a plumber, maybe?
No, they would have put the out order sign and then left me a note or text me, said, hey, you better call the plumber, because I don't let anybody else call a plumber or an electrician without talking to me first, because most of the time I could fix it.
It could be a $0 fix,
right?
Because all you have to do is work a plunger.
And I have a chef who loves to fix stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, Victor, should I call the electrician, or you think you can fix that light? I'll be right back. He goes to Home Depot. And he loves it. He thinks it's the coolest thing in the world.
But I think a lot of people don't think like that. They don't think like you and I just, as we're talking right here. They're like, they want to outsource that service. And as in this restaurant business or any service business, there's a fee for that, and that comes out of your bottom line, your profits and everything. So
the business of the restaurant.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, change the light bulb. Okay. And by the way, a little preventative maintenance will prevent maintenance down the road. Clean the coils, these are simple things that, again, you have to take care of your business. Otherwise it won't take care of you. So, what else? You've gone a little entrepreneurial maybe and explored some other stuff, with Phil Romano and, I want to get Phil on this. I want to talk to Phil while he's still with us, because Phil at one time was a virtual mentor for me. I didn't know him, but I knew of him. I knew of Fuddruckers. I knew every time I saw Phil in the news, I would cut it out and put it in my virtual mentor file. I said, I want to meet this guy, because if he can create concepts, I can create concepts. And I had other guys like Richard Melman out of Chicago, who was a virtual mentor, Fred DeLuca, who started Subway, and Norman Brinker.
Yeah.
These are the 4 people when I first came to Dallas. I said, I want to get to know and learn from them. And now Phil's like my neighbor. I talk to his son, and it's. But you spent a little time with Phil.
Yeah. So I had some challenges back a few years ago. I did some really stupid things, made some personal mistakes, and I needed to come back. And there were 2 guys in town that were instrumental in my comeback. One was Ray Washburn, who is a dear friend and has a tough reputation, but he couldn't have been more of a man for me and help me. Okay. Then there was Phil. And my time with Phil was incredible. Phil and I, although we worked in the same area of the restaurant, we had different beliefs. But Phil was a walking, I mean, he had certain things he said that I would go, how did I not think of that? And then we butted heads on some things.
Yeah.
But I'm a better restaurateur today because of Phil Romano. And that was late in my life. That was, 10 years ago, 6 years ago, I worked with Phil. So I was pretty old and set in my ways. And I'm a better restaurateur today because of that time. And Phil is the first person to admit he's had a lot of failures, but his successes were incredible. No one else has ever had 2 national concepts like he had with Fuddruckers and Macaroni Grill. I mean, no one's ever done that. I mean, Nick and Sam's, Eatsies. I mean, no one thought like Phil, thinks like Phil, and you should have him on because he's a cool guy. He's stubborn, he's hard, but anybody who's been with him for a while, and you have to be a special person to stay with him a while, is better because of it.
Yeah, he came by. Now we live next to each other, and he was walking, and I asked him to come in one day because I had an individual that was, I just got off surgery, so I really couldn't go to the office, so I had a meeting at my house, and Phil was just walking. I'm like, you want to join this meeting? He's like, sure.
Yeah.
And after the meeting, he said that one guy in that meeting, Jeff, you should get rid of him out of your system. He just had that intuition about reading people that, and you know what? It's like, he was right. I mean, it's like he's got intuition, he's got wisdom, he's had, some nice successes, and he's had some big misses, not big misses, but,
misses.
If a tree falls in the wood, but he's had some high profile misses, but you can't bat 100 at everything. So, we're going to get Phil on this show, and we're going to talk to Phil, and, maybe we'll get Sam over here too, but, he's a real special person.
Well, Phil and I, when we did Trinity Groves, where people brought us good ideas, and we incubate them, and we try to make them successful. And that's where I really realized that a lot of these people don't understand the business of the restaurant and the restaurant business, the difference, and they didn't, Phil's philosophy was this: 80% of your menu is what people want, 20% is what you think they want. As soon as you open, they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay? Phil has the cheese pizza theory.
I haven't heard this one, but
serve a cheese pizza, everybody loves it.
Okay.
Put mushrooms on it, less people like it.
Okay.
Put anchovies on it, a lot less people on it. Put pepperoni on it, even less people on it. So start off with a cheese pizza and sell some cheese pizzas, and then we'll worry about the anchovies and the pepperonis and the green peppers and all that stuff.
Because your customers will tell you.
Because the customers will tell you. But you got to have a cheese pizza, okay? That's why all of his restaurants have a great hamburger. It's got to be a great hamburger. And that's why he ended up, he started Fuddruckers because of the Quarter Pounder. The Quarter Pounder was the best hamburger he ever ate. He said, man, this is unbelievable. I can do better than this. Well, he started Fuddruckers with ground their own beef. And
making the buns.
And so the one thing he said to me was, you can grind your own beef, you can bake your own buns, but if the customer doesn't know it, what good is it? So we had the grinder right out front.
If the customer doesn't know it, what good is it?
Yeah.
If the customer doesn't know it, what good?
That is fresh ground beef.
Yeah.
Now with hot, fresh, baking your own buns, he put the bakery in the back. So the guy would have to go, hot buns coming through. Where they wow.
You see it.
They stacked the fresh tomatoes up in front of you. They stacked the potatoes where they made the French fries in front of you, because it just like Eatsy's. You walk into Eatsy's, you get hungry.
You see everything.
Ray Washburn asked me why Blue Grocery didn't make it in Highland Park Village. I said one of the reasons was you walk into a wine shop.
Yeah.
Wine shops don't smell very good. You walk into Eatsy's, man, you get hungry.
Yeah, you see the
smell
baking,
it.
the cooking.
Yeah. So Phil was a master at that. He had this incredible knack for that, which he taught me that. I don't have that. It's not built into me. I'm not a designer. Phil is an artist. He's incredibly articulate. He reads. He has thousands of books in his house that he's read. I've read like 5 books, in my life.
I think you've read 4 more than me. I don't read.
I don't read.
At in my 50s, my eyes are still 20/20 because I just, how are your eyes?
I wear contacts for the last 30 years.
Yeah, no, I attribute that to not reading. I listen to books on audio, but
so again, I was so fortunate in my life. My father, Arnie Morton, Dick Clark, Phil Romano, Ray Washburn. I mean, and I got customers. I got to know and get to spend a lot of time with Boone Pickens.
Yeah. But Bob, people are saying the same thing about you. I've had the opportunity to spend and work. I mean, you've
well, they say that when you get old, yeah.
Yeah, but I just I feel like fortunate to know you as one of the greatest restaurateurs out there. It's like
thank you.
You're iconic to me and my family, and I not every once in a while, it's a night at the Sinelli house, and I said, you know what, Courtney, I should go do a shift with Bob. I'd learn a lot. Just like I'd find a suit and I'd go over there, Bob, what should I wear? And I think about working for you, believe it or not. I really do. Just as you wouldn't have to pay me. I would just I think I would learn a lot.
So when I have a manager who I want to hire,
I'd smile. Hire me, Bob.
You got to dress a little better. Yeah?
I know. Yeah. I got to work on that.
T-shirts don't work. I have them spend a day with me, and usually I will be able to tell them usually a couple hours in that if they're going to make it or not, because I could just see in their face they're not really enjoying this, and you have to love it. You have to get a little nervous at 5 o'clock every day. I don't care who you are.
Yes, one time in Detroit, it was a Thursday night. It was one of our busiest bar nights. Now it was snowing outside, and I'm sitting there with the bartenders at the main bar, and it's 7 o'clock. Nobody's coming in. I'm like, maybe it's the weather. It's like 7:30, and my bartender starts playing the pinball machine. He's like, what do you want me to do? The place is clean. There's nothing left to do. I'll light ball. And it got to be about 8:30, and I look at him, and we see cars going in and out of the parking lot, and we forgot to unlock the door. We were real nervous that what was going on that night. But sometimes the little simple things, of turning on the open sign or unlocking the door. I think I'm nervous about business every day I wake up, and I think that's one of the success that you have is that I call it the pilot light. If that pilot light is out, you're not going to do a good job in business. It's your energy.
I don't usually open and close the restaurant anymore, but I open every Saturday morning. And I play golf a lot of times on Saturday, but before I go to golf, I open the doors and everything. And so I walk in, I open the door, I put the air conditioner on, I check the bath. I do everything my father told me to do that first day he took me to work, and I love Saturday mornings. My wife says to me, why do you still do that?
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
It's a ritual.
I said, it's not stupid. I said, I love it. I love opening on Saturday. I love going there and walking around by myself and just looking around, and it just
you know what that does? A lot of this is how I interpret that. One, it gives you pleasure. It gives you maybe a little ritual, a little nod to your father. Gives you also ritual sets you free. But the other thing is, and maybe talk to me on this one. When you turn on the air conditioning, you can hear it. And then maybe you can smell it. As you walk the room, you can see, oh, that got broken. You can really maybe it's your way of auditing it in a very nice way of minding your business.
Well, yes. And before I forget this, one thing that a lot of times isn't being taught to young restaurateurs is loyalty. So I always call it, you got to have loyalty to your customers, you got to have loyalty to your staff, and you got to have loyalty to your vendors. too many of our young people are being taught that the vendors are the enemy.
No.
They're not. They're our partners. I've been buying meat from the same company for 40 years. Same salesman still works there. And I'll tell you how I got him. So I'm in Chicago. I get promoted. I'm a divisional manager for this company, Specialty Restaurants. I had a restaurant in Milwaukee, St. Louis, and Chicago. I go to the Chicago restaurant to eat dinner, and I literally spit the steak out. It was horrible. So I tell the chef, his name was Mike Scott. I said, Mike, get the 3 best meat companies in Chicago, and we need to meet with them tomorrow. First guy comes in. I take him in the walk-in cooler. You have meat like this? Oh, yeah. Give you a great price and great service. Thank you. Next guy. You got meat like this? He goes, yeah. We'll give you the best price, best service. Great. Young man by the name of Jim Schuler from Stockyards Packing comes in. I said, Jim, you have meat like this? You got the wrong guy. We don't have any meat like that. I said, no, you're our guy. Still the same company.
Yeah. I was corrected by not calling them vendors. They're strategic partners.
Yeah.
So, and I still call them vendors, but I don't mean any disrespect by them. But a strategic partner, whether it's your meat person, the grass isn't greener because some sales guy is going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
If you find something that works, you like, your customers tell, there's no reason to change. Because somebody's always going to try to come in and undercut them. Maybe it's a lower price, maybe it's some other reason, or maybe they have a bigger portfolio. But if it's working, I call it set it and forget it. You don't have to make any decisions about that.
Right. If that's the right tomato.
Yes.
And they're following the specs, and they're giving you a fair price that you agreed on, and you pay your bills, you're done. Yeah. Cross it off the list.
Yeah.
Get your ass out in the dining room and take care of the customers.
Let's talk about strategic partners, paying your bills to them, okay?
Yeah.
Because they have a business just like you.
Right.
And a lot of people think that the vendors are your bank. And I've watched businesses get in trouble because they used, and the supplier then or the strategic partner get in trouble because they afforded too much credit. And then when the business slumps, it wrecks the relationship on both sides.
So I've been asked to talk to, this one major company asked me to talk to their salespeople on how do you sell a guy like me? How do you approach you? What's important?
Yeah.
And so, like I tell my managers, if a salesperson just walks in unannounced, he's basically telling you, by the way, my time's more valuable than yours, so I had a chance to stop by here. So can you stop whatever you're doing and talk to me?
Yeah.
Don't ever talk to that person. But if that young man or young lady comes to your restaurant that night, has a beer, just a beer, and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so company. Love to have a chance to talk to you. You better talk to them, because right then they proved they're better than the other guy.
And they spent a little money in your place. They spent time.
Courtesy and respect.
Yeah.
Don't ever talk to that guy who walked in unannounced, who wants you to stop what you're doing.
It's like cold callers.
Yeah.
We don't have time for that,
Right.
because our time's so valuable that, no, set an appointment. Make sure you know a little bit about my business, a little bit about what stakes I carry, or,
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's so important. I think the big word there is courtesy.
Right.
A little courtesy goes a long,
Right.
long way. And, I had another thought about, paying bills. We don't mess around. And I find that that's a relationship that once you establish that, they can count on you and you can count on them.
So when I first opened Bob's, I bought meat from Stockyards Packing for 20 years, opened my own restaurant, and we struggle. Okay. I had to call up the owner of Stockyards, a guy by the name of Harry Katz, and say, Harry, I can't pay. Really? What's going on? Is business tough? I said, yeah, you see that. He said, yeah, I do. All right, let me see how much you owe us. He looks. He goes, okay, what do you want to do? I said, well, you can't cut me off, Harry. You cut me off, I've got to close. He said, Bob, we ain't cutting you off, okay? If I can't stick by a guy like you, who's stuck by us wherever you worked, who would I ever stick by?
Yeah.
So let's put what you owe us aside. If you can pay whatever we send you COD, if that works for you.
Keep current.
Let's keep current with that. Let's not worry about the other stuff.
We can address that later. Yes.
And let's see if we can knock this out.
Bob, that's how I think the world works. You have the relationship, whether it's a franchise partner or a strategic, or in your case buying meat. You've been with it for a long time. Something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, business is slow. Maybe there's construction. Maybe there's something else going on. But you got in a bind. You're honest with them, and you called them and say, "Look, I can't pay you." and then you had a real conversation, and it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still with them today.
Yeah.
You could have maybe found another supplier and now another one after that. But you know what? I think courtesy, loyalty, all these fundamentals that, maybe our parents should teach us go a long way. And both our parents, your father and my father, taught us this hospitality, believe it or not.
But these young kids are growing up in an era of text messaging and emails. And so we have to teach them it's the handshake. It's sitting across the table and talking to that person and understanding each other.
Just looking them in the eye.
Looking them in the eye.
Smiling.
And so the same with your employees. Where's Ellen? She's late. I text her, but yet don't text her. Call her.
Yeah.
Why? She's not here. Call her. Maybe something happened. Maybe she's in an accident. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but that's not the answer you texted her. It drives me crazy.
It may be a sign of the times that texting.
So we have to teach them that there are times when a text is inappropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really important. She was supposed to be here at 4:00. It's 4:20 and she's not here. We need to know what's going on. First, is she coming to work? Did she quit, or is something wrong? Is something wrong with? She's an employee. We have to care about her too.
Yes, yeah.
Okay?
There's a lot going on, especially at 4:20.
Right. Yeah. So it's just, again, it's that being a restaurateur, thinking of everything, being excited about that responsibility. Not, oh no, I got another day at work. I hate it. No, you have to love it. I love when it gets hard, when things get really rough, because I'm better than the other guy.
That's competition.
Yeah.
I mean, self-competition. Like, I like on the tennis court when it gets real. When the shots start coming harder, they start playing harder, the intensity raises, because I get better. It's like, one of my titles is Chief Vibe Officer. The energy that you can bring can really enlighten a room. It's like, all it takes is a spark sometimes. The next thing, we're rolling, we're fighting, and that's how ideas happen in business too.
Everything starts with me at the top, and we're opening a new Bob's in McKinney in the end of May, and the manager who's been with Bob's for a long time, but he's never been the man. And I keep telling him, you think you're ready, but you're not really ready. You're only going to get ready when you're there, and the buck stops with you. There's no Bob. There's no anybody to cover you.
Yeah.
Okay? So just be patient. Don't get frustrated by that. Just accept it and embrace it.
Do you think it'll work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because how long has he been with you?
Well, he was an assistant manager in Plano for 8 years. He's been a GM now for me for 2 years. Yeah, I think he's going to work. I think he does care about the business. I think he does have a passion for it. But then there's the big jump, from being a really good restaurant manager to being a restaurateur on your own.
So sometimes that jump, I call it the leap. They're not ready.
No.
They're just not. It's not part of their DNA.
Yeah.
Like we have a lot of people jump into being franchisees and partners, and they've never written big checks like this for construction or for their Cisco food delivery bill. It's scary. You're doing things that you don't normally do, and you either get good at it real quick, or you probably have to go back to where you were.
Right.
So, but I think you have to take leaps in life, and sounds like it's a big leap for this gentleman.
Yeah, it's a big leap for all these guys. I mean, they've working for me is the hard job, and it's also an easy job. But they have to show that something, and you never really know until they're on their own. You really don't.
Yeah. Well, just keep that in the back of your mind. I have a fantasy of working for you. Just in a.
No, you're buying you told me you're going to buy the restaurant.
So this is a couple years ago. I said, Bob, in 10 years, because my kids are going to be in college, and I'm going to be looking at Courtney. What do you want to do tonight? Let's go, Courtney. You can hang out in booth 6, and your girlfriends can be there, and I can work.
Mm-hmm.
I like to make money while other people are sleeping. Like when my dad owned the bar, I was the bartender, and all my friends would go out and they would get drunk, and and I'd walk the next day. I could play golf. I had pockets full of cash. I wasn't hungover. It was just a better quality of life for me. So I don't really drink, and I might have one glass of wine here and there, but I'd rather make money than waste money, and that's just how I look at it. So the steakhouse, when I'm in my 60s, and I could see myself being there every night,
No, I do too.
Meet and greet, because it's my social life now. It's my social life. And by the way, I am into meat right now. Since July, I've pretty much had nothing to eat in my body other than like 95% beef, and it's grass-fed beef. And I want you to try, if you don't mind, because you're a beef expert. I've got a sample of the Supernova protein crisps, the chips right here. But so I believe what you put in your body will make you perform better. There's 2 ingredients in here. It's a sea salt, and it's also a grass-fed beef. It's an 80-20, but they're in the shape of like potato chips. And we're going into production these next couple weeks. I don't know what that look means, Bob.
I prefer a little more salt.
Okay. But for the people that want to eat pure protein, not a protein bar, that are maybe carnivore, there's 2 ingredients in here. You like a little more salt, but it's just beef. And it's the purest, cleanest beef that I think we can find.
I would eat this as a snack.
Yes. On the golf course?
Yeah. 100%.
You know, because like, would you rather have a hot dog or would you rather have, like, give me a couple ounces of this?
I love hot dogs.
Yeah. But it's satiating. It's unique, especially for athletes, for hunters. It's not a beef jerky, but it's something that we're setting up a dehydration kitchen to make this product, and I think it's going to be big for us. So
I'd buy this and I'd eat it as a snack, because I'm I want to live longer, and so I take care of myself. I work out all the time. I walk around the restaurant, which is gigantic, and I watch what I eat and drink. Now, I don't deprive myself. I just regulate it.
Yeah.
I don't waste my calories. I try not to drink at all, except when I'm having dinner with my wife on a Friday or Saturday night or with some friends. So I keep all that to a minimum, and I love to work out, and I love to walk around a restaurant, so I'm lucky. Most of the guys my age who are having health problems are because they just sit there.
Yeah.
They just don't move around.
It's well, first of all, your age is you look great. You're agile. You have the energy. You have some secrets to longevity, and I think it's probably beef, one of them. Plus your active lifestyle.
When we did the original menu at Bob's, I had to decide what to have on the menu, and I said I don't want chicken on the menu.
Amen. It drives me nuts when Courtney orders chicken at a restaurant.
And I eat chicken for lunch, and I like chicken, but as a young man, my father said to me one day, when we're eating dinner, and we were out celebrating, and he said to the guy, "What are you ordering chicken for? We're out here celebrating." He said, my father's 6th grade education. He says, you don't say, hey, something good happened, let's go out and have some chicken. You say, let's have a steak, order a steak, be a man.
Yeah, you don't celebrate with chicken.
So we don't have chicken on the menu because of that.
There was one time, because as we were upbringing our children, Story and Sky, we actually went to Kentucky Fried Chicken before your restaurant because they didn't eat steak at the time, or they didn't eat seafood.
Sure.
So, it's but
talk about the carrot, Jeff.
yeah. Well, today's National Carrot Day.
Had the carrot end up on the plate, right?
Well, but it's iconic, and it's almost, if your parent company should be called Carrots Are Us or something. It's like it's so iconic for you. It's like Bob and a carrot go hand in hand.
So I wanted to include potato and vegetable. I didn't want it to be a la carte. So we have 3 potatoes, same 3 potatoes we always had: baked potato, skillet potatoes with onions and gravy, and smashed potatoes, which are mashed potatoes. And we messed around with a lot of different vegetables. And now we weren't very busy, so I had plenty of time to think about this. And I said, you know what? My mother, I born and raised Jewish, my mother used to make me a dish called simmus, and it had these glazed carrots in it, and I love them. So I said to my chef, James Rose, James, we need to have a big glazed carrot on a plate. Well, I don't know, how do you do it? So my mother had passed, so my sister knew how to do it. He called my sister, a very simple recipe. And we started putting the carrot on a plate. And business grew, and so we kept it. And it's Bob's iconic carrot, which some people can't stand. They think it's stupid.
They probably like chicken too.
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah. and and so, but other people think it's funny. A lot of tables of guys put 20. Everybody throws 20 in. Who gets the biggest carrot wins the money. The waitress has to decide who has the biggest carrot. It's just, listen. Some people say no carrot. Some people say I just want it steamed. Whenever I eat, my wife, I make her do it too. We must have the carrot on a plate. It has to come out with the carrot. And my chef, one of my better friends is the chef at Nick and Sam's, Samir, and he loves making fun of the carrot. For my anniversary, he sent me a 50-pound bag of carrots. He just thinks it's the funniest thing ever. And he's one of the great chefs. He's incredibly talented, but he just thinks it's the funniest thing ever.
I don't know if it's funny, but I love it. I think it's like it's iconic. Don't ever change that.
I know.
It's like if so what? Well, look, I've got the opportunity to be involved in a lot of different restaurant concepts. Now we're involved in a fitness business. We've got performance products. I fantasize about being in the steak business, whether it's taking our deal home in 8 to 10 years, and I'm at Lemon Avenue every night. But I'm programming myself for a next decade career.
Are you going to keep me on?
Empress, emeritus, or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
you're like we're gonna have a
Like the Colonel. I walk around.
we're gonna have a nice oil painting and a little candles in there. You light a candle for Bob if he's not here. And we're gonna celebrate carrots a little bit more, and I'll probably hyper brand it a little bit more, and there'll be more logos and real Sinelli style, but change my name to Bob, and here we go. But there's still time left, and I don't know if we can talk about this offline, but I'm intrigued with conceptual restaurants. Okay, ones that, and I think I get this from Romano, that can be replicated, repeated, profligate. I mean, it's like once you have the formula, you can build it here. You can build it in Chicago, Dubai. That's been my career, and you've done that too. You've taken Bob's and and reiterated it, replicated it. But I think when I went into the Mongolian barbecue business, there was a few people that were doing it, and I studied them. There's a few people right now that are doing a skirt steak concept, and I think it's ready. If I don't do it in Dallas, somebody's going to do it. And, I'd love to have you as an advisement member, partner somewhere on it. I've got an iconic building in Oak Cliff called the Power Station. There's 4 of them in Dallas. Mort Meyerson has one. Alden Pinnell has the other one that Brady Wood had down in the other side of Fair Park. And there's one in the Cedars. There's 4 of these Dallas or DP&L buildings. It's a 3-story building in Oak Cliff. And I think I want to convert it into some kind of skirt steak, formatted, the French fries, the good salad, the dessert cart, the bar in an iconic building, and then build multiple around the world. But I'm not a steak guy. I need some consultation. And you're on the list for a consult.
I'm in.
You're in.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think the
He's in. Wait. All right.
I mean,
I got goosebumps. Like, you got your.
Listen, the problem.
What are we going to call it? Now, is it we, or are you looking at pronouns? You always got to watch the pronouns. You're
I'm
in as
all that creative stuff to you.
All right.
I'm not involved with
but
that.
Can you cook the steak, or you get somebody over there to teach me how to the cut of meat? The supplier, we're using the same supplier.
You come to Bob's. We get a bunch of skirt steak from different suppliers, and we cook it on our Montague broilers. We give it that char.
Is that how we're going to cook them?
We're going to cook them there. We see if that's the best way to cook them first.
Okay.
And then you have to have the nerve to stick to it. In other words, you can't say you want to do skirt steak and then, you also have the chicken on the menu. You got to have this on the menu. You got to stick to it.
What I know now in my conceptual life right now, I'm going to set it and forget it. Okay. And if we pick a carrot or whatever, that's what it's going to be like. Now we're going to let, like Romano says, the 20%, the customers are going to let us know on some things. But I think we're going to have the 80% ready to go to market. It's going to have a great name, great design, but the food and the DNA and everything has to be right, especially this.
Is the location out of the way?
It's just outside of Bishop Arts.
Okay, and that location needs to be in your way, not out of your way. I just think that's.
What about downtown Dallas? There's a building over here. It's a sushi restaurant. It's kind of like
not a big downtown fan.
But this is going to attract a younger crowd. It reminds me a lot of Mongolian barbecue, but it also parties and groups, and where would you advise putting it?
I don't know, but we need to get the food squared away.
Okay.
So you tell me when you want to start eating skirt steak.
Well, we're in April, and this is no fooling. Soon.
Seriously, when we get off the air, we're gonna do a skirt steak deal at the restaurant.
Well, yeah. Well, part of it is like, do I start with the steak first or the name in the building?
Steak first.
That's the way you would do it. I always have to I need the name, so I'm like, this is going to be the whatever product. We're writing a book right now. By the way, why didn't you write that book?
Because everybody tells me that you should do a documentary, not a book.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, let's put a chapter in there for the S. What have we call it? S and S. Our last names.
That's right.
Sounds a little gasoline-ish. A little Texas oil.
I just think that if you ask 100 customers at Bob's tonight, were you thinking of going downtown? They go, nah, I don't want to go down there. I don't know where to park. It's one-way streets, and I'm not sold on it yet. Okay, and that's because of my clientele. Okay, I'm just not sold on it yet. Now I know Monarch does great. Nick has opened a great place called the Brass Ram. I mean, who's better than Nick? Nick's as good as it gets. Talk about a hardworking guy who gets it. Nick Bodavides.
Yeah, we crossed paths a couple months ago. We got involved in this Earth Burger project, and we named a peach as one of the things we wanted to own. So I start researching peach farms in Texas, and friggin' Nick bought like a peach farm. He beat me to it a couple months during COVID. I'm like, do you want to sell me any peach trees? He's like, no. You wouldn't even just one, Nick, please. So.
Nick's one of those. You're like this too for me. I always feel like I'm a better person after I've been with you for a few minutes than Nick's one of those guys. You're one of those guys. There's certain people you're with just for even a short period of time that you feel your day is better because of that. He's that guy. Phil's that guy. Samir is that guy. We have a lunch group. We need to get you into this. We have a once a month, a group of us restaurateurs have lunch together, and we had it today. It's the first or second Tuesday of every month. And you got guys like Miko, and you got the CEO of Mikasina. You got Brad from Albernays, Rich Hicks, Randy DeWitt. All these guys. We all Campese. All these guys, we all sit and have lunch and talk. But we need to get you to come.
Sounds like I never got the invite for that fraternity.
Yeah. Well, I can see if I get you in.
Well, maybe someone's blackballing me. He's like,
this is a long story that I'm going to make short. Years ago, when I first opened Bob's, they had in-flight magazines, and in the back of the in-flight magazine was a top 10 list.
Yes,
and there was a list called Tom Horan's Top 10. He was a food critic from Houston. And I called him up and I said, how to get on your list? He says, you can't. I already have a Dallas restaurant, Del Frisco's, I bought the original Del Frisco's. They moved to Spring Valley, Tollway. And I said, okay. So I had a buddy of mine who had a steakhouse in San Diego called Donovan's. And I called him up. I said, Don, we're going to start our own list. We're going to get 8 other steakhouses, and we're going to do the prime time top 10 list. And if we ask you to be on it, we're going to get ads in in-flight magazine, split the cost 10 ways equally. You and I aren't, but you and I are never going to fall below third. But everybody's going to have a chance to be number one. So we started the primetime top 10 list. And it was, people believed it. I mean, they thought, oh my God, they walk in the restaurant. I've been to 7 of the places. I've never met you. Can you sign this? I saw you went down to number 3, but you're back up to number 1. I mean, I'm an aggressive marketer. I spend 5% of every dollar.
This is genius.
And I'm aggressive. I'm the guy who hopes it works so I can do more. I'm not the guy who hopes it works so I can stop. Okay? So I was aggressive with this. When Bob's was doing $8 million, I'm spending $400,000 a year on marketing because I just wanted to do more. So, well, in-flight magazines go away. COVID hits, the whole deal. So I'm getting older now. I'm getting a little nostalgic about my business, and I think there needs to be a Steakhouse Hall of Fame. So I get with a friend of mine who's a videographer, Emmy award-winning videographer, and a guy named Ron Small. And I'm saying we're going to start a website, and we're going to honor owner-operated steakhouses in America. But we're not going to charge them. I'm going to foot the whole bill, and later on we'll get sponsors. And then I want to have an app where no matter where you are in the United States, you get on this app, and it says the nearest steakhouse within 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, whatever it is. So you can find a steakhouse. But the most important thing is you go on the app, and the inducted steakhouses are highlighted. The inducted steakhouses are featured on our website. We also do a legends section where legends of our business tell a story, because I want people to know about steakhouses. Steakhouses will never go away. They'll always be an incredible part of our restaurant community, because you celebrate with a steak. You don't celebrate with chicken, okay? So the app is very important because it's more up to date and everything. So we've gotten some great sponsors: U.S. Foods, Ecolab, a private jet company, and I want to. But the best advice I got was, you can't just have owner-operated steakhouses. You have to include the chains. So on the app, if you're in Cleveland and there's a Capital Grill, it will come up on the app that Capital Grill's there. But if Joe and Eddie's was an inducted steakhouse, it'll be highlighted. So that's where the app and my Steakhouse Hall of Fame thing is going. And so United Airlines just told us that as soon as we get 12 inducted steakhouses, they're going to give anybody who uses their United Airlines credit card double points if they use them in those restaurants. So it's moving along. It's cost me a lot of money, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. And I don't want to charge the restaurants, because then the credibility is gone.
So you and I are both getting into tech. I showed you my Yellow Lab project, and you're in an app.
That is very cool.
It's it's just well, we have opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, the hospitality business has been great to us, and now it's time for us to do some new things too, and some old things better than we did before.
I just hope that young people go on the website, watch the videos of me and the other people, and learn something by it, and learn what it takes to be in our business. And maybe then and there they'll know whether they belong or not, because maybe they should leave if they don't.
Yeah. There's a lot of young people that don't know what they wanted to do.
And the worst part about it is we lost a lot of talented people during COVID.
Yes.
They got scared. They were smart and talented enough to get a job in another arena, and they left us. So we got to replenish those people. We've got to get young people in our. That's why I go talk to universities and colleges and groups. I want these young kids to be excited about being in our business.
It's a great business. You'll never go hungry. Okay. I mean, and you make money. And if you don't get high on your own supply, you're like, you meet a lot of people. And if you're good, people come see you so you can develop friends. I mean, it's I used to have this thing down in Deep Ellum. When I wasn't there, people would come in and say, I'm a friend of Jeff's. They're looking for a hookup or something.
Yeah.
So I told my bartenders, I said, here's the true test. My friends will support me.
Right.
They're not there looking for a freebie, okay? Mm-hmm. And if they're a real friend, charge them double. And if they don't pay you double, they're definitely not a friend, because a friend will support you.
You hit it right on the head.
So don't call yourself a friend if you're not willing to support your friend. So, Bob, I support you. I love you as a person and a mentor. You're not the virtual mentor, because I see you, I know you, but believe me, when I'm there, I'm watching you and I'm learning from you. So thank you. If I've never thanked you, thank you.
Listen, this is my pleasure. It's been so much fun. I love talking about what we do, and you're doing exactly what we need to do to help our business.
Well, I'm just hopefully someone will see this and want to get involved, and we can help them.
Yeah, but let's fire up the skirt steaks.
Skirt steak, S&S steak. That could be the name. It has a little alliteration. All right, it's got a carrot cake. Yes, I like carrot cake.
We have
You have carrot expertise.
Yeah.
What else? What could be a magical part of skirt steak? Obviously, the cut of meat. There's no chicken. There's no other meat, by the way. There's not a hamburger over here. It's like you have to have the discipline. We can have a whole conceptual conversation. But let's do that. I will reach out to you. Will you call your supplier and get the steaks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You just give me a day you want to do it. But I think we got to decide on, is it one great potato? Is it two great potatoes? Is it three great vegetables? For dessert, you own prosciutto. Why don't we do everything with ice cream? Everything you should have pound cake and all these different. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no. You're getting me to think about part of the network that we have.
Right.
How can they play a strategic part in the next business? And I'm getting, this is going to be awesome. All right. That's Obsessed, Bob. I think we're two guys obsessed in Dallas doing what we love. And thank you for spending the day with us.
Thanks, pal.
Oh, look at that. The handshake. And look in the eye, the fundamentals, the smile, the handshake, the total package.